Hello, Happy New Year. Hope you're doing well wherever you are. My name is MT and today's video is going to be about my bookish goals, New Year's resolutions for 2025, as well as my TBR for January. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. Now, in terms of my New Year's goals, I've written them down here in this notebook, and let's go ahead and go through them together. So the first one is to prioritize my physical TBR. I'm one of those people who buys books knowing that I'm just gonna add to my never-ending TBR, so this year is truly gonna be the year that I'm gonna focus on it. So that's the first one, and the second one is very related to prioritizing my physical TBR, and that is a low buy book year. And I'm trying to be more intentional with the books I buy. I feel like what I'm trying to do moving forward is the books I'm purchasing are books that I know I love and want to keep in my personal library. And if I do want the physical copy of a book, I'm going to try and make sure that I look at secondhand stores and bookstores first of all before purchasing new. So yes, a low buy book year is the second one. And then the third one is better reading tracking, like on Fable. I think that's going to be the main app where I'm going to be tracking, as well as Storygraph, as well as journaling, just writing down my thoughts related to what I read, so I have a better understanding and things of that sort. So yeah, my next one, the fifth one, is basically being a Libby and library stan account. So again, all of my resolutions or like goals in terms of reading are very interconnected. And so now if I want to read the physical copy of a book, to see if my local library has it for books that I don't have, and I'm not sure if I want to own the physical copy yet. Next is having a smaller but stricter TBR to leave room for other books that I might want to squeeze in depending on how I feel. Something I realize is that by being very rigid in like, oh, I have to read through this many books in a month, I don't enjoy them as much as I want to, or I'm not able to sit with them as much as I want to. And so instead of like being bound to, for example, a certain book goal of how many I've read throughout the year, I still have a general one on the tracking apps like Fable just to keep track, but I'm not gonna beat myself up if I don't get to that goal, or if I don't get through as many books as I wanted to that month. Like if I want to really sit down, take my time with a book, then that's what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna beat myself up over it. So yeah. And then number 7 is be consistent with this channel. Try to post and document and just log as much as I can. I think this has become a really fun hobby, even though I took a bit of a break, but I just have so much fun talking about these things that I do and building a community through it. So yeah. And then my final goal in terms of books is to read at least one banned book a month. Of course, there's a lot of things going on in the United States of America, and so it's imperative that not only do I continue to utilize public resources such as the library, but make sure that these books that are on banned lists are still being circulated, still being read, still being loved. And so yeah, that's what I intend to do, just to make sure I diversify my TBRs as I go through the months, so on and so forth. And that is my reading goals for 2025. I had a really big slump in 2024, so I'm really looking forward to basically locking in, for lack of a better term, and exposing myself to more stories, more voices, more perspectives, and just learning more and just taking it all in. So those were my reading goals. What we're gonna do now is go into my January TBR. And the focus of January, because it's also a big year in the United States, because there's going to be a certain person that's going to be assuming the presidential office, who's known for a lot of things, but recently convicted felon has been added to that list. And just to prepare myself and to continue to center myself in terms of the goals and things I know I want to do to be a part of the community, continue to help out the community, both in my direct one, but also as a global citizen, is to read nonfiction. And so I have 4 books that are going to be the main focus of this month. Again, like I said, my TBRs are going to be a lot smaller just to make room for other books, and so I could take my time going through, especially because these books might be a little denser. I might want to take some breaks in between books because it might deal with some heavy things. So yeah. The first book is Read Dangerously: The Subversive Power of Literature in Troubled Times by Azar Nafisi. And girl, this book came out in light of a certain someone's first presidential term, and this is essentially about why we should continue to read books that are banned, that are considered subversive, that are considered like an enemy of the government, because you know what I mean? Like, we should continue to push boundaries and continue to read books that people don't want us to read. And so this explores that. And then I can also pull up the synopsis for the book. It explores what is the role of literature in an era where the president wages war on writers and the press. What is the connection between political strife in our daily lives and the way we meet our enemies on the page in fiction? And how can literature, through its free exchange, affect politics? So this is the first read I got going on. It's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be a fun one, but yes. All right. Next, we have Freedom is a Constant Struggle, Ferguson, Palestine, and the Foundations of a Movement. This has been on my TBR for a really long time. I've had it on my shelf, and you know what? It's about time that I get through it. And so I'll go ahead and give you the synopsis. So in these newly collected essays, interviews, and speeches, world-renowned activist and scholar Angela Y. Davis illuminates the connection between struggles against state violence and oppression through history and around the world. So reflecting on the importance of Black feminism, intersectionality, and prison abolitionism for today's struggles, Davis discusses the legacies of previous liberation struggles, from the Black freedom movement to the South African anti-apartheid movement. She highlights connections and analyzes today's struggles against the state terror, from Ferguson to Palestine. Facing a world of outrageous injustice, Davis challenges us to imagine and build the movement for human liberation. And in doing so, she reminds us that freedom is a constant struggle. So this is the shortest read out of all my TBR. It's at 145 pages or so. So yes, this is Freedom is a Constant Struggle by Angela Y. Davis. Next, we have The Good Immigrant, which is a collection of essays and reflections from 26 writers on America. This is edited by Nikesh Shukla and Chimene Suleyman. And so, as America is consumed by tensions over immigration and the questions of which bodies are welcome, we find ourselves at a crossroads, in grave danger of forgetting who we are as a nation. To remind us, The Good Immigrant hands the microphone to an astonishing array of writers who are first and second generation immigrants and who share powerful personal stories of living between cultures and languages while struggling to figure out where they belong. By turns painful and hilarious, troubling and uplifting, the essays in The Good Immigrant come together to create a provocative, conversation-sparking, multivocal portrait of America now. And yes, this is The Good Immigrant. Next is my final book on my TBR for January, and that is Racing, Justice, Engendering Power. Essays on Anita Hill, Clarence Thomas, and the Construction of Social Reality, edited and with an introduction by Toni Morrison. I've read Toni Morrison before a while ago, and that was in high school. We read The Bluest Eye for my honors English class, and I needed at least 5 to 10 business days to recover from that book, but in the best way possible. It was amazing, and so I'm really excited to read this. And here is what it's about. It was perhaps the most wretchedly pervasive race and gender scandal of recent times. The dramatic testimony of Anita Hill as the Senate hearings on the confirmation of Clarence Thomas as Supreme Court Justice. Yet even as the televised proceedings shocked and galvanized viewers not only in this country, but the world over, they cast a long shadow on essential issues that define America. In Racing Justice, Engendering Power, Toni Morrison contributes an introduction and brings together 18 provocative essays, all but written, one especially for this book, by prominent and distinguished academics, black and white, male and female. These writings powerfully elucidate not only the racial and sexual, but also historical, political, cultural, legal, psychological, and linguistic aspects of a signal and a revelatory moment in American history. This is probably going to be the densest book that we have, but also really excited for that. So yeah, this is the final book we got, which is Racing Justice, Engendering Power by Toni Morrison. It's going to be a doozy. It's going to be a big book. And I also just want to say that reading will always be political. You know, that is something that I believe very deeply. If it is something that governing bodies of power want to take the privilege of, and we have seen historically, then it is inherently political. And I know there's a big conversation in different bookish spaces about quote unquote reading should be apolitical, blah, 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 but that is a privilege in itself. And this month, I really want to challenge myself and really push the boundaries of my understanding in terms of how I interact with the world, how I move in the world, what my privileges are, not only to protect myself, but to protect the collective community that I'm a part of. And so come January 20th, and the fact that Inauguration Day is on MLK Jr. Day, I find that absolutely diabolical, by the way. Yeah, I just really want to continue to be a part of the conscious effort to do what I can, you know, and I believe prioritizing this and diversifying my reads, continuing to go to the library, read banned books, so on and so forth, is a part of to continue to resist. Yeah, just a little aside that I thought I should share. And so, yeah, it's just important that we do the work. And I really hope that I build a community of like-minded folks. Yeah, that's what we got going on. Yes. Again, that is everything I got for today. I hope you have an amazing year in 2025. I hope we all continue to thrive, we all continue to fight, and yeah, especially given the times. So with that, I will leave you all here, and I will see you in the next one. I hope you consider subscribing if you haven't already to stay connected, and I will see you then. Bye!